Hey there, my name's Jesse, and you're listening to the Deep Lore Boys podcast, where Jackson, Matthew, and I delve into the random, rare, and usually ridiculous pieces of human history.
The city of Nuremberg, it had a falling out with the Pope.
It's in the middle of the street, dude. They had a wedding in the middle of the street.
2,500 rounds of ammunition had been fired. Only 50 birds were killed. The 1561 celestial phenomenon over Nuremberg. What is going on in Nuremberg?
It was what Wikipedia would call a mass sighting of celestial phenomena or unidentified flying objects above Nuremberg.
Do not go to Nuremberg at 1561. Okay.
Do not go to Nuremberg.
Yeah, hopefully you can put up this picture here on the camera. They just got like this medieval painting of like a Star Wars battle going on. Like I don't know what's going on there, but
now hold on, Jackson. I thought for a minute that this was going to be a load of hooey and they saw some weird lights in the sky. But I'm seeing they saw a black triangular object, an aerial battle, spheres, cylinders, and other odd-shaped objects that moved erratically overhead. This was like a full-blown UFO war that happened over Nuremberg, supposedly.
Yeah, so it was morning the 14th of April, 1561. They had just been fighting recently with the Pope, and the Pope had... I believe he excommunicated the entire city.
He excommunicated
the whole
city?
He just decided everyone over there, and
they were not popular at the time.
Nuremberg haters? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think that's what's going on.
And people woke up to see tons of these cylinders and triangles and massive circles sort of like dancing around the sun. They sort of arose with the sun, and as the sun got higher up in the sky, people claim that it sort of disappeared and died out, but they also reported that there was a lot of smoke as whatever these things were like streaking down to Earth. And of course, this was all over the news at the time.
Right, this was probably the scariest thing they had ever seen.
So Nuremberg was actually in the center of this, what would have been the Habsburg Empire and their allies at the time. They were without a doubt like the most powerful force at the time. Nuremberg was exactly in the center of that. If you were an alien trying to take over the world, this would have been the perfect, within probably 60 years, the perfect time and place to do it. Because this was the center of the most powerful empire at the time. The human race was not technologically advanced, and Asia and Northern Africa and the Middle East they had lost a lot of the power that they had in the earlier medieval ages.
So are you saying that the aliens were just watching the Earth, waiting for people to
Well, the theory would be that, yes, the aliens would have been just watching Earth, waiting for a time to strike.
And then they all got to Earth at the same time, and they had the Battle of Five Armies over Nuremberg, and nobody got to Earth because they all killed each other in the sky.
They all killed each other. No, I like to think it was like the Battle of Helm's Deep, where they were all sitting there waiting, now's not the time, guys. We'll take over the Earth, and not now. And one guy, shot an arrow on accident. And
they all just started ripping.
They all start shooting each other.
Dude, they're aliens, okay? They're aliens, man. All they would have to do is just say, meteor, and they just build a spaceship and send it and just wipe it out. It's so easy for aliens that would have technology to build UFOs and giant flying triangles to just destroy the planet. They would
as you begin to research a little bit more, this story begins to kind of fall apart a bit. It's not to say that this was completely not the case, that this wasn't a giant aerial battle, but I am not thinking that that's what this was. For starters, Nuremberg was actually not as strong of a city as what I originally thought. It looks like they had actually fallen off a lot within the past 100 years.
They fell
off, dude. I don't think this really has a whole lot to do with the state of the world at the time, and more a lot to do with the weather conditions of Europe at the time.
Alien haters will say, must have been a cloud. Must have been ball lightning.
I love how we've never actually discussed ball lightning. It's just something that comes up occasionally, and we're like, okay.
That's the best possible explanation.
So what people actually believe that this was something called a sundog.
It was a dog?
The dogs?
It was a dog, dude.
Dude, this was not the sun dog. This was the sun's dogs.
Put the dogs away.
Mr. Sun, put the dogs away.
Dude, do you think they saw this and then they were like, who let the dogs out?
So a sundog is it's ice crystals that form in the sky. They form in the clouds, and they sort of create this sort of like an illusion when the sun rises, or typically when the sun is lower in the sky when it's rising or setting. And it sort of makes this illusion of
Oh yeah,
three
we can
suns
put
pretty
up a
much.
picture on it on screen. It makes like a cool. It looks like it happens when it's cold out. Yeah, when it's like
A sundog?
wintry places. Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
I see.
it makes like a ring around the sun.
The smoking things that we're seeing falling to Earth, it's actually typically an illusion caused by sundogs that it looks like smoke is in the sky. And all of the shapes that people reported seeing, they're common shapes to see in the sky when there's a sundog.
I don't know
That
though.
being
I
said,
feel like if you read the full text that they're writing about, they're saying that like it literally just ends in like a prayer where he just says like, you know, God, please avert your wrath, including your well-deserved punishment on us, so that we may temporarily live as children. Like they're really freaking out
Yeah.
about this. Like
the city of
Yeah.
Nuremberg, it had a falling out with the Pope. And they were trying to make it look like God was approving of them.
But why wouldn't they just say like we saw Jesus over the clouds and not say we saw a bunch of aliens fighting each other in a giant sundog fight?
You would not believe it, dude. The sky was angry.
They could just say, guys, Jesus just dropped down from the sky. He said, we're not excommunicated anymore. Like, you could have just said that if you're going to make up a story.
Oh, wait, guys, hold on. On Good Friday, 1554, another siege happened, and another newspaper publisher described mock suns that prognosticated God's will. Another sky apparition followed in July of knights fighting each other with fiery swords, thus warning a day of coming judgment. But this was before. This was like 7 years beforehand. So maybe people were just making this up because everybody's saying like mad crap is going on in the skies right now. Unless it's like angels just dogging it out.
It's just a bunch of angels.
There's an angel brawl. There's an angel bar fight that they saw
Dude,
in the morning.
That's got to be what it was, dude. That's what it was.
A meteorite had actually fallen in Western Germany less than 100 years before this incident in 1492. And what people had immediately said was that everyone could hear this meteorite falling. And within a day, people were already starting to take souvenirs off of this thing and documenting it. It's still around today. So if these massive spacecrafts were falling to Earth, smoking, and people could see them crashing, it is confusing to me as to what would have happened to them. Like, why were people not taking souvenirs off of them? Why were people not documenting the crash sites? Things like that. And I think that's the biggest issue that I have with the story of just if these spacecrafts were really crashing, where did they go?
Important note here, nowhere in this account of what happened does anybody who saw this or claims to have seen this in 1561, nowhere do they claim that these are craft or that there are aliens here. They're just saying we saw these objects in the sky and they were doing stuff and it's probably a sign from God. We only attach the UFO tag to it because nowadays we are so used to hearing about UFOs that we're like, oh, maybe that's what that was.
I do think the sundog argument is very convincing.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know what they exactly saw, but I do think the sundog is the most reliable source of what it probably was.
I'd say it was that sun dog. That sun got that dog in him.
I think the sun got a dog in him.
I think that's a solid bit for Nuremberg. What do we want to do next?
Do we have any topics that have to do with rats by any chance?
Matthew just sent the rat Wikipedia article to the chat.
I don't know. I just kind of like him, you know? He just kind of...
You just kind of like
hanging out.
Rats? You want to talk about rats today? Let's see. What's on the rat
What's on the
Wikipedia?
rat roster for today? That's
The rat roster. I went right to the bottom of the rat Wikipedia and saw the see also. They have a list of fictional rodents and a Chicago rat hole.
Dude.
Have you seen the Chicago rat hole?
I have. Let's talk about that.
Yes, the Chicago rat hole.
The Chicago rat hole is a hole shaped like a rat in Chicago.
Yes.
That's the lore. But, like, it's suspiciously rat-shaped. It's not just, like, the body of a rat. It's got distinct fingers and a tail. And It kind of looks like in Kung Fu Panda, in the first one, when he like bounces Tai Lung into the air and then body slams him into the ground, and there's that Tai Lung shaped hole.
It's like Dragon Ball Z.
When I first saw the rat hole, I was thinking maybe they were paving the street and a rat, like they paved over the rat and maybe like they peeled up the rat's body but still left like the imprint in there.
I don't know. His stance that he's in really looks like he got like power blasted into the ground and like, it was like some like anime battle.
Well, like, were
really
they paving
does.
the? Well, like, what if they were like paving the road and like he jumped off of like a building and like fell in it, and then like they picked him off, and then like that was
Dude, they just peeled him out of the hole.
because that's what it looks like.
Dude, people have been filling it with coins.
Dude, I know. There's pictures on the Wikipedia. They set up a shrine outside it.
Dude.
Okay, we'll put up a picture on screen. It is. I don't know what to make of this. That is a rat-shaped hole. It's not like a pothole in the cement that looks like a rat. Like, it's a rat. And you can see at least 3 of its legs with fingers and then a tail. I'm surprised there aren't whisker imprints in the concrete at this point.
Some locals think it's actually a squirrel. Not.
No, squirrels don't have those kinds of tails.
Well, the squirrel's fur wouldn't come up, would it? Would it?
The history here, the lore. The hole gained worldwide attention on January 6th, 2024. What is that, like 2 years after the riots happened at the White House? We've got 3 years after.
Oh wait, this is like a new lore, like a month ago. This is
it's very recent. Yes, it just started trending in the news
fresh.
Like a month ago.
It came out via a tweet by a Chicago-based comedian and writer, Winslow Dumaine. Many Chicago residents were compelled to make what they described as a pilgrimage and make offerings to it, such as coins, flowers, candles, cheese, cigarettes, alcohol, children's toys, and pills.
And pills?
We'll just say that. They left it medicine.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I get it. The rat hole needs medicine.
The hole had existed for 20 to 30 years, according to locals. A local softball team has been using the rat as its unofficial mascot since 2018. The hole was filled in with plaster cement by an unknown party on January 19th, 2024.
No!
City officials later confirmed they had not filled in the hole. Local residents attempted to excavate the hole using their hands and ice scrapers. Eventually, a woman successfully cleaned out the hole and restored it.
Shortly after the restoration, an engagement and a gay marriage ceremony took place at the hole. Why?
These guys got married at the rat hole.
At the rat hole.
Where else would you get married,
what
though?
if we kissed by the Chicago rat hole?
Jesse, can you get married there?
Do you mean like me and you, or?
No,
I mean...
I thought I said you.
We get married. Dude, I'll officiate the wedding.
At the rat hole.
It's in the middle of the street, dude. They had a wedding in the middle of the street.
Some residents of West Roscoe Street have expressed frustration with the hole's newfound viral status, with some locals citing public nuisance, vandalism, and accumulation of garbage on the sidewalk, which is fair.
Dude, they named it Splatitouille.
Wonderful.
Dude, Splatitouille.
So, for the last 5 minutes, I have been making a picture of what I think they saw in the Nuremberg incident. I might need to show it to you guys. It's in general.
Oh no. Matthew, you're gonna love this.
Jackson, what have you sent? Is this...
You're gonna really like this.
Jackson!
I'm putting this on screen.
Dude. Why
Put the dogs away, man. Why is he outside of Hobbiton?
That took you I love that you're saying it took me 5 minutes to create this. Like, this is some art piece you've
I mean, is it not an art piece?
That's incredible.
The sun looks like he knows what he's doing in this image. Every now and then I go to Wikipedia's unusual articles list, and I just found one. I haven't read this yet, but it's Joe the Pigeon. He's a tumbler pigeon found in Australia, and he was put on death row for being American, but later acquitted and released, named after the then president-elect Joe Biden.
What?
The government was scared that he might have some diseases, so they were going to euthanize him.
So he flew from Oregon to Melbourne, only for them to be like, he could have a disease.
He could have the Oregon disease.
Like,
what if he has diabetes? Oh.
How do you do that?
How did they even identify that that's where this pigeon came from?
Well, I guess there's not pigeons like this in Australia, it seems.
Oh, I see.
Some guy named Kevin spotted him in his backyard on December 26th, 2020. And Joe the pigeon was very weak and in an emaciated state. He fed Joe in an attempt to revitalize him and noticed a ring on Joe's leg. He traced the tag to an owner in Alabama who had last seen the bird after it flew off from a race in Oregon. Okay, so he was a pet.
How did he wind up in Melbourne, man?
I don't.
Where
must have
was
taken a wrong turn in Albuquerque.
No wonder he was weak and emaciated, man. He just crossed the Pacific Ocean.
It's speculated that he might have crossed the distance on a container ship.
Yeah, that I was gonna say. There's no way that this pigeon just took a flight all the way from Oregon to Melbourne and was just like,
No, pigeons cannot. I doubt pigeons can fly that far.
Apparently,
without,
it would have
any sort of
beaten
stopping.
the previous record for the longest known bird flight.
So it looks like Kevin just held on to Joe for a while, and he got attention for it. Like, people really liked Joe, and the Australian government found out, and they were like, "Hey,
Joe needs to be
we're gonna
killed."
put Joe to sleep. Yeah, he might be a security risk." And everybody just got really mad at the government, so they backed off and are like, "Okay, yeah, whatever. You guys can get the plague. You guys can contract diabetes. It doesn't matter."
They had a politician literally say, "Take Joe off death row." And this was actually a real legal thing that they had to deal with.
Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, Michael McCormick, said, "If Joe has come in a way that has not met our strict biosecurity measures, then bad luck, Joe. Either fly home or face the consequences."
Oh, man.
He's a pigeon. He's a bird. Okay.
He doesn't know where he is.
This guy is evil. Okay. I'm sorry.
So why don't they just catch him and use him for some testing to make sure that he doesn't have diseases?
Because then they just kill him anyway.
Well, Australia is probably so used to having to fend off animals because they live in the monster capital of the world. They probably just see animals as a threat as a default.
I mean, this is the same country that went to war against emus 100 years ago. So birds in Australia already don't seem to get along well.
They don't really get along.
I don't know that we've ever talked about the emu war on the podcast, but I feel like it's
we haven't yet.
Enough.
It's been on our things to discuss for a while.
Back in the 1930s in Australia, there were a lot of emus running around, and they were actually causing a problem for farmers. They were destroying crops and stuff. So the Royal Australian Artillery went to war against the emus, and the emus won. Is basically the story. The anti-emu extermination unit, they go to this one farmland where 50 emus have been sighted, and the local settlers attempt to herd the emus into an ambush, but the birds seem to know what's happening, so they split into smaller groups and ran so that they were difficult to target. And so they used machine guns against the emus, but they didn't box them all in. The emus were too smart. So they weren't able to kill that many. They just said that they killed a number of birds and then later said it was about a dozen.
It was only a dozen?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they killed
That was the first battle, okay?
Yeah, oh yeah. That was just the first one.
Okay.
The next ambush, they set up an ambush near a dam. And they spotted 1,000 emus heading towards their position. So they all waited They had a giant Lewis gun, by the way. That's really what was going on, just a mega machine gun. And
I love
yeah,
how
they
intense
waited
this
till the
is.
emus were, all in close proximity, shot down 12 of them, and then the gun jammed, and they all scattered before they could fix it.
And no more birds were sighted
yeah,
Did
that
they
day.
did they not bring up like a backup plan? Like
I guess not. That's just what they would do.
I love this. By the fourth day of the campaign against the emus, observers noted that each pack seemed to have its own leader, a big black-plumed bird which stands fully 6 feet high and keeps watch while his mates carry out their work of destruction and warns them of our approach. So it's like the emus figured out what was going on
They
and started
quickly understood.
strategizing.
This clearly isn't the most established military presence.
Well, you gotta understand, these guys had never gone to war against emus before. The AEEU was a brand new unit.
This was a fresh, I mean, they did have one
Yeah.
single job, though.
So how many battles did they fight in this war after this?
I don't know if there's a specific number. We're kind of just calling these battles because they were like the reported incidents. At one stage, they mounted guns on a truck and they were unable to gain on the birds because the guns made the truck too heavy. And when the ground got really rough, it was too bumpy for them to actually fire any shots accurately. So by November 8th, 6 days after the first engagement, 2,500 rounds of ammunition had been fired, and they estimate that only 50 birds were killed.
Major Meredith, who's like the main guy spearheading this, just says, if we had a military division with the bullet carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks.
How many bullets were they taking?
Apparently a lot.
I love how they put this fear into the general of like, these birds, like if they ever decide to revolt, it's the strongest army on earth. Like, we wouldn't stand a chance.
It looks like they kept hunting emus and everybody was just hunting them. And between 1945 and 1960, 284,000 emus were killed in Australia.
They put out a bounty like, hey, if you farmers can kill these emus, we'll pay you. And 57,000 emus were killed.
And now the emu population is stable and between 600,000 and 700,000.
Hey again, it's Jesse. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Deep Lore Boys podcast. If you had fun, please share this episode with one of your non-reptilian friends, and we'll see you next time. Until then, I hope your day is nothing short of interesting. Take care.
I'm going to go post that one on twitter.com.